Captain Deho stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the empty space where a city should have been bustling with life. Below them, the planet Zarian Prime stretched out like a beautiful painting, but something was terribly wrong. The massive towers still glowed with soft blue light. The transport lanes still hummed with automated vehicles. The defense grid still powered up when his ship approached. But nobody was answering their calls. Any response from the surface? Deho asked his communications officer. Ria shook her head, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Nothing. Captain, the automated systems are working perfectly, but I cannot reach a single living person down there. This was the 15th world they had visited in the past 3 months. Every single one told the same story. Cities that worked but had no voices. Technologies that functioned but served no masters. It was like the entire galaxy had simply decided to take a nap and forgotten to wake up. Hyan-Wu, the ship's navigator, pulled up a star chart on the main screen. Red dots marked all the worlds they had visited. Captain, I have been thinking about the pattern. All these worlds have one thing in common. What is that? Deho asked. They are all advanced civilizations. The primitive worlds we have checked are still active. It is only the developed species that have gone silent. Engineer Yoonji looked up from her scanner readings. That does not make sense. Advanced civilizations should be better at protecting themselves from whatever this is. Deho rubbed his temples. He had been asking himself the same question for weeks. The Vorthek were masters of crystal technology and had minds that could process information faster than any computer. The Luminari existed as pure energy and could travel through space without ships. The Nexari had merged with their machines centuries ago and should have been immune to biological problems. Yet all of them had fallen silent within the same few months. Take us down to the surface, Deho ordered. We need to see this with our own eyes. The ship descended through Zarian Prime's atmosphere. The city below them was breathtaking. Tall spires of crystalline material caught the sunlight and threw rainbows across the sky. Gardens hung in the air between buildings, kept aloft by gravity manipulators. Streams of clean water flowed upward in impossible spirals, creating a network of aerial rivers. But as they flew lower, the silence became more obvious. The parks were empty. The walkways had no footsteps. The market squares that should have been filled with thousands of beings buying and selling goods were completely still. They landed in the central plaza. Deho's team put on their environmental suits and stepped outside. The air was clean and breathable, but it felt heavy with emptiness. Over here, Sora called out. She was standing near a fountain where several Vorthek citizens sat on benches. They looked like they were made of living crystal, their bodies catching the light and sending sparkles in all directions. But they were not moving. Eunji ran her medical scanner over one of the Vorthek. Amazing. They are alive, Captain. Heart rate is slow but steady. Brain activity shows they are dreaming, but I cannot wake them up. She tried shaking the crystal being's shoulder, but there was no response. They moved through the city, finding the same scene everywhere. Beings of all species sat or lay in comfortable positions, as if they had simply decided to take a rest. Right where they were. Some were in their homes, curled up in beds or on soft chairs. Others were in public spaces, leaning against trees or sitting by fountains. All of them wore peaceful expressions, like they were having the most wonderful dreams. This is not natural, Hyan-Wu said, his voice tight with worry. You do not just have entire civilizations fall asleep at the same time. Deho nodded. And yet, here we are. 15 worlds, millions of beings, all in the same state. They spent hours exploring the city, but found no clues about what had caused the mass slumber. The technology was all working perfectly. There were no signs of disease, war, or natural disaster. It was as if someone had simply turned off a switch in every advanced mind in the galaxy. as they prepared to leave. Yoonji made a disturbing discovery. "Captain, you need to see this." She led them to a communication center where dozens of screens showed messages from across the galaxy. Most were automated distress signals, but some were personal messages from the last conscious beings on various worlds. One message from a luminary scientist flickered on the screen. The energy being's voice was fading as it spoke. "Day 43 of the phenomenon. I can feel it calling to me now. The others were right. It is so beautiful, so peaceful. Why did we ever choose to struggle when we could simply rest? I think I will sleep now. I think I will dream of perfect worlds where nothing ever hurts." The message ended with a soft sigh, and the luminary's energy signature faded to nothing. Another message came from a Nexari collective. "We have analyzed the pattern. It spreads through consciousness itself. The more advanced the mind, the more attractive the call becomes. We calculate that even our machine components cannot resist indefinitely. It promises an end to all conflict, all pain, all uncertainty. Perhaps this is evolution. Perhaps this is what we were always meant to become." Daeho felt a chill run down his spine. They are not victims. They are volunteers. But volunteers for what? Sora asked. Before anyone could answer, Hyan Wu grabbed Daeho's arm. "Captain, we need to leave, now. What is wrong?" "I can feel it too. There is something calling to me. It is faint, but it is there. A voice that promises rest, peace, an end to all the hard choices we have to make every day." Yoonji checked her scanner and went pale. "Brain activity in the crew is showing unusual patterns. We are all being affected." They rushed back to their ship and took off immediately. As they climbed away from the planet, the strange feeling faded. But it did not disappear completely. It was like a whisper at the edge of hearing, a lullaby that promised everything would be better if they just stopped fighting and gave in to sleep. Back in space, Daeho called his crew together. "We are dealing with something that attacks consciousness itself. Something that is convincing the most advanced minds in the galaxy to simply give up." "But why are humans more resistant?" Yoonji asked. "We should be just as vulnerable as anyone else." Daeho did not have an answer. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy, or the smartest, or the most advanced. They were messy and chaotic and could never agree on anything. Maybe that was exactly why they were still awake when everyone else had chosen to sleep. "Set course for the outer colonies," he ordered. "We need to find other humans who are still conscious. And we need to figure out what this thing is before it decides that our dreams are worth collecting too." As the ship jumped to hyperspace, Daeho looked back at the sleeping world behind them. Somewhere out there, something ancient and powerful was gathering the minds of the galaxy into its embrace. And humanity, stubborn and imperfect as they were, might be the only ones left to stand against it. New Bizin was supposed to be one of humanity's proudest colonies. The planet had clean air, fertile soil, and 3 beautiful moons that painted the night sky in silver light. But when Captain Daeho's ship arrived, he could see that something was wrong even from orbit. The city's lights were dimmer than they should be. The traffic pattern showed only automated vehicles moving through empty streets. Most of the communication channels were silent, except for emergency broadcasts running on repeat. "How many people are still awake down there?" Daeho asked So-Ra. She ran the scans twice to make sure. "Maybe 300 out of 50,000, Captain. The rest are showing the same sleep patterns we have seen on the other worlds." They landed at the main spaceport, which was eerily quiet. A few maintenance robots rolled around doing their jobs, but no people came to greet them. As they walked toward the city center, they passed shops with their doors open and lights on, but no customers or workers inside. Dr. Taemin met them at the colony's medical center. He looked exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes and clothes that he had clearly been wearing for days. Thank goodness you are here, he said, shaking Deho's hand. We have been trying to contact other human worlds, but most are not responding. Anymore. How long has this been happening? Yunji asked. 3 weeks. It started slowly. People began complaining about being tired all the time. Then they started having the same dreams every night. Dreams about a voice calling them to rest. Forever, one by one, they stopped waking up. Taemin led them through the medical center. The beds were full of sleeping colonists, all breathing peacefully with small smiles on their faces. Monitors showed their brain activity was strange but not dangerous. We have tried everything, Taemin explained. Loud noises, bright lights, medical stimulants, even pain, nothing wakes them up. But they are healthy. Their bodies are fine. It is like their minds have gone somewhere else. Where is your family? Deho asked, noticing how worried the doctor looked. My wife the Jinn is still fighting it, but she is getting weaker every day. She falls asleep for hours at a time, and when she wakes up, she talks about beautiful dreams where everything is perfect. Taemin's voice cracked. But my daughter Su-Jin is different. She seems completely immune to whatever this is. As if summoned by her name, a small girl appeared in the doorway. She looked to be about 8 years old, with bright eyes and messy hair. While everyone else in the colony looked tired and worried, she seemed full of energy. Are you the space captain? She asked Deho directly. Yes, I am Captain Deho. What is your name? I am Su-Jin. I have been waiting for you to come. She said this so matter-of-factly that it made everyone pause. Waiting for me? How did you know I was coming? The little girl tilted her head like she was listening to something no one else could hear. The star singers told me. They have been very worried about all the sleeping people. Taemin sighed. She has been saying things like that for weeks. We thought it was just her imagination, but ... But what? Sora asked. Show them, Su-Jin, her father said gently. The girl walked over to one of the sleeping patients, an elderly man who had been unconscious for 5 days. She leaned close to his ear and began humming a soft melody. It was simple, like a lullaby, but something about it made everyone in the room feel more alert and awake. As she hummed, the old man's face changed. His peaceful expression became more animated, and his eyes began moving rapidly under his closed lids. The brain monitor next to his bed started showing increased activity. He is dreaming more actively, Yoonji whispered, checking her scanner. Whatever she is doing, it is affecting his sleep state. Su-Jin stopped humming and stepped back. He is dreaming about his garden now, instead of the gray place where the old voice lives. What old voice? Hyen-woo asked, kneeling down to the girl's level. The one that lives between the stars. It is very old and very tired, and it wants everyone to come sleep with it forever. It makes the dreams taste like silver water and sound like distant thunder. Su-Jin spoke as if she was describing something perfectly normal, but human dreams taste different. They taste like warm bread and sunshine. That is why it has trouble with us. The adults exchanged glances. The child was describing things that matched what they had learned from the final messages on other worlds. Can you hear this voice now? Deho asked. Always. It never stops calling. But I do not want to sleep forever. I want to wake up every morning and see what new things will happen. Su-Jin smiled. Besides, if everyone sleeps all the time, who will take care of the flowers? Just then, a woman stumbled into the room. She looked like an older version of Su-Jin, but her eyes were heavy and unfocused. The Jinn, Taemin said, rushing to support his wife. You should be resting. I heard voices, she said dreamily. New voices. They woke me up from the beautiful place. She looked at Captain Deho's team. You are not from here. No, we are. From the exploration ship Harmony, Deho explained. The Jinn nodded slowly. Good. Su-Jin said you would come. She said the galaxy needs someone to sing it awake. Her eyes started to close again. The dreams are so beautiful. Why do we choose to be awake when sleeping feels so good? Taemin helped his wife to a chair. She has been like this for days. She sleeps for hours, then wakes up confused and tired. Soo-jin went to her mother and took her hand. "Mama, remember the song you taught me? The one about the morning star?" "The morning star," the Jinn repeated, and for a moment her eyes cleared. "Yes, I remember. It was your grandmother's song." "Sing it with me," Soo-jin said. Mother and daughter began to sing together, their voices blending in a gentle melody about a star that refused to fade when the sun rose, insisting on shining through the day to guide travelers home. As they sang, the Jinn seemed to become more alert and present. When the song ended, the Jinn looked around the room with clearer eyes. "How long was I asleep this time?" 6 hours, Taemin said. "It felt like days. I was in a place where everything was perfect and peaceful, but also empty, like a beautiful painting that never changes." She looked at her daughter with wonder. "But when you sing, I remember why I want to wake up." Soo-jin hugged her mother. "That is what I have been trying to tell everyone. The old voice only knows about sleeping. It never learned about waking up on purpose." Captain Daeho felt a strange hope beginning to form in his chest. "Soo-jin, do you think you could teach other people to resist the voice?" The little girl considered this seriously. "Maybe, but I think the problem is bigger than just our planet. The old voice is calling to everyone in all the star places. To help them, I would need to sing very loud." "How loud?" Sora asked. Soo-jin looked up at the ceiling, as if she could see through it to the stars beyond. "Loud enough for the whole galaxy to hear." That night, Soo-jin had trouble sleeping. Not because of the ancient voice that called to everyone else, but because she could hear so many dreams at once. She sat by her bedroom window, looking up at the 3 moons, and listened to the sleeping world around her. "Captain Daeho," she called softly. He had been sitting in the hallway outside her family's quarters, unable to sleep himself. The strange calling in his head had grown stronger since they landed, and he was fighting to stay. "Awake. What is it, Soo-jin? I need to show you something. But you have to promise not to be scared." Daeho entered her room and sat in the chair beside her bed. "What do you want to show me?" Soo-jin took his hand. "Close your eyes and listen with me." The moment their hands touched, Daeho felt his consciousness expand. Suddenly he could hear what Soo-jin heard, the dreams of everyone in the colony, flowing together like a river of sleeping thoughts. But more than that, he could sense the source of the calling. It was vast and ancient, older than most of the stars in the sky. It existed in a place that was not quite another dimension, but not quite this one either. A place between sleeping and waking, where consciousness could exist without the burden of individual bodies. "Do you see it?" Soo-jin whispered. Ho did see it. The entity that called itself the first dreamer appeared in his mind like a mountain made of starlight. It was beautiful and terrible, with thoughts that moved like slow rivers and memories that stretched back to when the galaxy was young. "I have been waiting so long," the first dreamer's voice echoed in both their minds. "Waiting for the children of the stars to grow tired of their struggles and accept my gift of eternal peace." "What gift?" Daeho asked, though he was not sure if he spoke the words aloud or just thought them. "The gift of perfect dreams. No more pain, no more conflict, no more death. Just endless, beautiful sleep where every soul can experience whatever paradise they desire." Soo-jin squeezed Daeho's hand. "Show him the dream place." Suddenly, Daeho was standing in a vast space filled with floating islands of light. Each island contained sleeping beings from different worlds, Vorthok, Luminari, Nexari, and dozens of other species. They all looked peaceful and happy, living in perfect dream worlds created just for them. "Every being here experiences their ideal existence," the first dreamer explained. "The Vorthok dream of crystal cities that sing with Perfect harmony. The luminary dream of dancing through nebulae without ever fading. The nexari dream of perfect fusion between organic and artificial consciousness. All pain removed, all conflict ended. But they are not really living, Deho said. They are just dreaming. What is the difference? The first dreamer asked. In dreams, they can have everything they ever wanted without the risk of losing it. In dreams, they never grow old, never make mistakes, never hurt each other. Su-jin pulled Deho's attention to a different part of the dream realm. Look over. There, in a darker section, he saw beings who looked frustrated and restless. They were moving around their dream islands, but their movements seemed repetitive and empty. Those are the ones who have been here longest, Su-jin explained. They have had their perfect dreams for so long that they have forgotten what it feels like to be surprised or to learn something new. The first dreamer's voice grew sad. Yes, some grow restless after a few thousand years. But that is a small price to pay for the elimination of suffering. You are lonely, Su-jin said suddenly. The ancient entity paused. I am complete. I have gathered millions of minds into perfect unity, but you are still lonely. That is why you keep calling more people to sleep with you. You want someone to choose to stay awake and talk to you, but everyone always chooses the dreams. Deho felt the first dreamer's surprise at the child's words. You are different from the others, small human. Your mind is chaos, but it is also interesting. That is because I am still growing. Dreams are nice, but they are not the same as real life. In real life, things can go wrong, but that means they can also go right in ways you never expected. The first dreamer showed them memories of its own past, images of a time billions of years ago when it too had been young and curious. It had been part of a species that loved to explore and discover new things. But as they grew more advanced, they also grew more aware of all the suffering in the universe. We tried to fix everything, the first dreamer remembered. We tried to end pain and conflict and death. But we learned that consciousness itself creates suffering. The only way to end pain was to end the chaos of individual existence. So you put your whole species to sleep? Deho asked. We chose to transcend individual consciousness and become something greater. I am what remains of billions of minds, united in perfect peace. Su-jin stood up in the dream space and looked directly at the mountain of starlight. But what about the parts of life that are good because they are not perfect? What about surprises and learning and growing? Those things cause uncertainty and pain. They also cause joy and wonder and love. Su-jin's voice was gentle but firm. My mama teaches children. She says that learning hurts sometimes, but it also makes you bigger inside. How can you grow if you never face anything difficult? The first dreamer was quiet for a long moment. I had forgotten about growth. In perfect dreams, there is no need to change or learn. Maybe that is why you are lonely, Su-jin said. You stopped growing so long ago that you forgot what it feels like to become something new. Deho felt the ancient entity's confusion and pain. It had spent so long believing that its solution was perfect that it had never considered what it might be missing. The beings in your dream realm, Deho said carefully. Do they have a choice? Can they leave if they want to? Why would they want to leave paradise? Because it is not paradise if you cannot choose it freely. The first dreamer showed them more of the dream realm. Most of the sleeping beings did seem content, but there were others who moved restlessly, who seemed to be searching for something they could not find in their perfect dreams. I never thought to ask if they wanted to leave, the first dreamer admitted. I assumed that once they experienced perfect peace, they would never want to return to the chaos of individual existence. Su-jin walked closer to the entity. What if you gave them a choice? What if you let them know they could wake up if they wanted to, but also let them stay if they preferred the dreams? And what if some choose to wake up? Then they wake up. And maybe they visit you sometimes and tell you about the new things they have learned while awake. Maybe they bring you stories from the waking world. The first dreamer's voice became very small. But then I would be alone sometimes. Yes, Sujin said gently. Being alone sometimes is part of being awake. But it makes the times when you are not alone more special. Daeho felt the ancient entity considering this idea. It was clearly struggling with concepts it had not thought about for eons. How would I even give them a choice? The first dreamer asked. They cannot hear me the way you can, small human. Sujin smiled. That is easy. You just need someone to sing to them. Someone who knows songs about waking up on purpose. You would do this for me? I would do it for everyone. For you, for the sleeping people, and for the ones who are still awake and scared. The vision faded, and Daeho found himself back in Sujin's bedroom. The little girl was smiling at him. Now you understand, she said. The first dreamer is not evil. It is just scared and lonely, and forgot that some beautiful things can only happen when you are awake. Daeho nodded, his mind reeling from what he had experienced. But how can we reach all the sleeping minds across the galaxy? Sujin looked out at the stars. We will need to make my voice very big. Big enough to reach across all the star spaces. And into the dream realm itself. That sounds dangerous. Maybe, but leaving everyone asleep forever would be dangerous too. She yawned. I should probably get some real sleep now. Tomorrow we will need to figure out how to wake up the galaxy. The next morning, Captain Daeho called his crew together in the colony's main communication center. Dr. Taemin and his family joined them, along with the few dozen colonists who were still awake. Everyone looked tired and worried, but Sujin seemed as bright and alert as ever. I need to tell you all something that might sound impossible, Daeho began. He explained what he had experienced in the dream realm with Sujin, about the first dreamer and its lonely quest to gather all consciousness into perfect sleep. Haiyan Wu shook his head in disbelief. You are saying that an ancient being older than most stars is collecting minds like toys? Not like toys, Sujin corrected. Like friends. It is just very bad at making friends because it forgot how to be awake. And Ji was studying the colony's communication equipment. Even if this is all true, how could we possibly broadcast a signal strong enough to reach the entire galaxy? We would need power sources we do not have and technology that does not exist. What if we use the existing networks? Sora suggested. Every world has communication arrays. If we could connect them all together, the sleeping worlds still have their systems running, Haiyan Wu said, getting excited. The automated networks are still active. We could create a chain reaction where each world amplifies the signal and passes it on to the next. Dr. Taemin looked worried. But what about Sujin? If she tries to project her consciousness across the galaxy, what happens to her body here? That is the dangerous part, Sujin admitted. I will need to go partway into the dream realm to reach everyone. But if I go too far, I might not be able to find my way back. Her mother, the Jinn, held her daughter's hand tightly. There has to be another way. Maybe there is, Yoonji said thoughtfully. What if we record your song first, Sujin? That way, even if something happens to you, the message will still reach everyone. It will not work the same way, Sujin sighed. The song needs to be alive, not just recorded. It needs to come from someone who is choosing to be awake right now in this moment. Captain Daeho knelt down beside the little girl. Sujin, I cannot ask you to risk your life for this. You are not asking. I am choosing. She looked around at all the worried faces. This is what I mean about being awake. When you are awake, you get to make choices, even hard ones. If I was dreaming, I would never have to choose anything difficult. The remaining colonists worked through the day to modify their communication array. They linked it to the ship's more powerful transmitters and connected both to the planet's main power grid. It would only work once, The system would burn out from the overload, but it might be enough. As the sun was setting, Su-jin sat in the center of the communication array, surrounded by humming machines and glowing screens. Her parents stood nearby, their faces full of love and fear. "Remember," Eunji said, checking her monitors one last time, "you need to stay connected to your body here. If you feel yourself getting lost in the dream realm, follow the sound of our voices back." "I will," Su-jin promised. "And remember, do not try to wake me up once I start singing. I need to be partly asleep to reach the dream realm." The little girl closed her eyes and began to hum softly. It was the same melody she had hummed to the sleeping patient, but now it seemed to fill the entire room with warmth and light. As her voice grew stronger, the communication equipment began to respond. Screens lit up showing connections forming across the galaxy. The automated networks on sleeping worlds were accepting the signal and amplifying it, creating a web of sound that stretched from star to star. But something else was happening too. Su-jin's consciousness was expanding, reaching out through the network to touch the dreams of millions of sleeping beings. Captain Daeho could feel it happening, a gentle presence that whispered of choices and morning light and the courage to face another day. In the dream realm, the first dreamer felt the song arrive like a warm breeze across its mountain of starlight. The melody was simple but powerful, carrying with it the essence of what it meant to choose to wake up every day. "Little singer," the first dreamer said, "you have come as you promised." "I have come to give everyone a choice," Su-jin's voice echoed across the realm. "The choice to stay in beautiful dreams or to wake up and face beautiful reality." Her song grew louder, and suddenly all the sleeping beings in the dream realm could hear it. For the first time in eons, they realized that there was a world outside their perfect dreams, a world where things were uncertain and sometimes difficult, but also full of surprises and growth. Some of the dreamers stirred, remembering what it felt like to be curious about tomorrow. Others held tighter to their dreams, preferring the safety of known perfection. But now they all knew they had a choice. On worlds across the galaxy, sleeping beings began to wake up. Not all of them. Many chose to remain in their dreams, but enough to bring life back to empty cities and silent space lanes. Back on New Bizon, the communication array was overheating from the massive signal it was carrying. Sparks flew from overloaded circuits, and warning alarms blared throughout the center. "Su-jin," her father called out, "you need to come back now." But the little girl did not respond. Her body sat motionless in the center of the array, her consciousness deep in the dream realm, still singing to sleeping minds across the galaxy. In the realm between sleeping and waking, Su-jin found herself standing before the first dreamer's mountain of light. But now she could see that the mountain was not solid. It was made of countless individual lights, each one a mind that had chosen to join the collective consciousness. "Your song is beautiful," the first dreamer said. "It reminds me of songs my people used to sing long ago when we were still individual beings." "Do you miss it?" Su-jin asked. "Being individual?" "I had forgotten that I missed it until I heard your song. You sing of things I chose to give up: uncertainty, growth, the pain and joy of making choices." Around them, some of the lights in the mountain began to separate, individual minds choosing to return to their own bodies and their own lives. The first dreamer did not try to stop them. "Are you sad that they are leaving?" Su-jin asked. "Yes, but I am also proud. Is that the right word? They are choosing their own paths, even if it means leaving me. That takes courage." "You could choose your own path too," Su-jin said gently. "You do not have to stay here collecting dreams forever." The first dreamer was quiet for a long moment. "I do not remember how to be individual anymore. I have been collective consciousness for so long." "Then learn again. Learning is one of the best parts of being awake." "Would you teach me?" Su-jin smiled. "I would like that. But first, I need to go back to my body." My parents are worried about me. Yes, go back to your waking life. But perhaps you could visit me sometimes, in dreams when you sleep naturally. You could tell me about the things you learn while awake. I promise." As Sujin's consciousness began to return to her body, she felt the first dreamer doing something it had not done in billions of years. It began to separate itself back into individual components, curious to rediscover what it had lost when it chose eternal collective sleep on New Bizin. Sujin's eyes opened just as the communication array finally overloaded and shut down. She found herself surrounded by worried faces and the smell of burned electronics. "I am back," she said simply. Her parents hugged her tightly while Captain Deho checked the status reports coming in from across the galaxy. Worlds that had been silent for months were coming back online. Not all of them. Some civilizations had chosen to remain in their dreams, but enough to prove that the plan had worked. "Did you really talk to the thing that was calling everyone to sleep?" Sora asked. "Yes, and I think it learned something important today." "What did it learn?" Sujin yawned, suddenly feeling very tired after her long journey through the dream realm. It learned that the best dreams are the ones you wake up from. 3 months later, Captain Deho stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting the planet Zarian Prime. Below him, the Crystal City was alive again with movement and light. Not everyone had chosen to wake up. About half the population remained in their peaceful dreams, but those who had awakened were working together to care for both the sleeping and the conscious. It was the same story across the galaxy. Some worlds had seen almost everyone wake up, curious about what they had missed during their long sleep. Others had only a few awakened beings, content to maintain their societies while the majority dreamed on. A few worlds had chosen to remain completely asleep, and the awakened galaxy respected their choice. "Captain," Sora called from the communication station, "we are getting a message from New Bizin." Deho smiled and activated the connection. Sujin's face appeared on the screen, looking a bit older and more serious than when they had first met her, but still bright with curiosity. "Hello, Captain Deho," she said. "I wanted to tell you about something interesting." "What is it, Sujin?" "I had a dream last night, but not a regular dream. I visited the first dreamer like I promised I would. Over the past months, Sujin had made several dream visits to the ancient entity, helping it remember what individual consciousness felt like. It was a slow process. The first dreamer had been collective for so long that separating back into individual thoughts was like learning to walk again. "How is it doing?" Yoonji asked, joining the conversation. "Much better. It has been practicing being just one mind instead of millions. And it has been talking to some of the people who chose to stay in the dream realm." "Talking to them about what?" "About the difference between choosing to dream and being trapped in dreams. It turns out that when you know you can wake up whenever you want, the dreams become more interesting. Some of the long-term dreamers are starting to have new kinds of dreams, ones where they can learn and grow even while sleeping." This was fascinating news. The awakened civilizations had been wondering what would happen to those who chose to remain in the dream realm. It seemed they were finding ways to evolve even within their perfect dreams. "There is something else," Sujin continued. "The first dreamer wants to try something new. It wants to experience waking up." Deho felt a chill of excitement and worry. Is that even possible? It has been collective consciousness for billions of years. It thinks so, but it will need help. It has forgotten how to have a body, so it wants to borrow one for a little while. "Borrow a body from who?" Sujin grinned. "From me. Just for a few hours, so it can remember what it feels like to taste food and feel sunlight and make choices with a single mind instead of millions." "Absolutely not," Dr. Taemin's voice came from off-screen. "It is too dangerous. Papa, we talked about this. The first dreamer would never hurt me. It is too curious about what it feels like to be individual again." Captain Deho considered this carefully. What would happen to your consciousness while it was using your body? I would be visiting the dream realm, talking to the people there, and learning about their experiences. It would only be for a few hours, and we would switch back. It was risky, but Deho had learned to trust Sujin's unusual insights. What does your family think? Dr. Tae-min appeared on screen, looking worried but resigned. She has convinced us that it is important. The first dreamer has been alone for so long that it needs to remember what connection feels like. And Sujin says she can learn things in the dream realm that might help other people. When do you want to try this? Deho asked. Tomorrow, when the 3 moons are all visible. The first dreamer says that will make the connection easier. The next day, Deho and his crew returned to New Bizen to witness this unprecedented event. They gathered in the same communication center where Sujin had first sung to the galaxy, but this time the equipment was set up just to monitor what happened. Sujin lay down on a comfortable bed surrounded by medical scanners. Her parents sat nearby, holding her hands. Remember, she said to the empty air, you can only stay for 3 hours. And be gentle with my body, it is smaller than what you are used to. To everyone else, it looked like she was talking to herself. But then, her expression changed completely. Her eyes opened, but they held an ancient sadness and wonder that had never been there before. This is ... The voice that came from Sujin's mouth was still hers, but the way she spoke was different, older. I had forgotten what it feels like to breathe. The first dreamer, experiencing individual consciousness in a physical body for the first time in eons, slowly sat up and looked around the room with wonder. Everything is so immediate, it said through Sujin's voice. When I was collective, I experienced everything through millions of perspectives at once. But this ... this is sharp and clear and focused. Dr. Tae-min offered the entity a glass of water. It took the glass with trembling hands and sipped carefully. Water, it said in amazement. I remember water. My people used to live near a great ocean of liquid starlight. We would swim in it and sing to the waves. For the next 3 hours, the first dreamer experienced the simple joys of individual existence. It walked outside and felt sunlight on skin. It listened to birds singing and realized it could choose to focus on just one song instead of hearing all sounds at once. It ate fresh fruit and marveled at how taste could be both sweet and surprising. Most importantly, it talked with Sujin's parents and Captain Deho's crew, experiencing what it meant to have a conversation between separate minds that could disagree and learn from each other. When I was collective, it explained while watching clouds drift across the sky, I knew everything that all my component minds knew. But I never learned anything new, because there was no outside perspective to teach me. This is wonderful and terrifying. As the 3 hours came to an end, the first dreamer lay back down on the bed with obvious reluctance. Thank you for this gift, it said. I understand now why beings choose the uncertainty of individual consciousness. There's a beauty in not knowing what will happen next. Sujin's expression changed back to her own, and she sat up with a big smile. How's the dream realm? Yoonji asked. Amazing. I talked to beings from hundreds of different worlds, all sharing their dreams with each other. And I learned something important. What did you learn? The first dreamer is not the only ancient entity out there. There are others, scattered across the universe, who made different choices about how to deal with the pain of existence. Some chose eternal sleep like the first dreamer. Others chose to stop feeling emotions. Some chose to become pure logic without creativity. This was startling news. Are they dangerous? Not dangerous, just ... stuck. Like the first dreamer was stuck. But now that it has remembered how to grow and change, maybe it can help the others remember too. Captain Deho felt a mixture of excitement and concern. So this is not over? Oh, no, Sujin said cheerfully. This is just the beginning. The universe is full of ancient beings who forgot how to be curious. Someone needs to remind them what they are missing. And you think humans should be the ones to do that? Hyenwu asked. Not just humans. All the awakened beings working together. But humans are good at it because we never learned how to be perfect. We keep making mistakes and trying new things and growing. Over the following weeks, reports came in from across the galaxy that confirmed Su Jin's words. Ancient structures on dead worlds were beginning to show signs of activity. Signals were being detected from the galactic core that suggested other entities were stirring. The first dreamer had begun reaching out to its distant counterparts, sharing what it had learned about the joy of choosing to wake up. Some of them are interested, the first dreamer told Su Jin during one of their dream meetings. Others are afraid. They have been in their chosen states for so long that change seems impossible. What about the one that chose to stop feeling emotions? Su Jin asked. That one is the most curious. It calls itself the Silent Watcher. For eons, it has observed the universe without feeling joy or pain or love. But when it sensed my awakening, it began to wonder what it had given up. Maybe we could visit it next, perhaps. But that would be even more dangerous than what we have already done. The Silent Watcher exists in a realm of pure thought, without any connection to physical reality. If you went there, you might lose your ability to feel emotions when you returned. Su Jin considered this seriously. But if I did not try, it might stay emotionless forever. That seems sadder than the risk. It was typical of the little girl to think more about helping others than protecting herself. Captain Deho was starting to understand why humans had been the ones to resist the great slumber in the first place. Their stubborn refusal to accept that anything was impossible made them uniquely suited to wake up ancient beings who had forgotten how to change. As the months passed, New Bizin became an unexpected center of galactic diplomacy. Representatives from awakened civilizations came to learn about Su Jin's methods for reaching ancient entities. Scientists studied the dream realm connections. Philosophers debated the ethics of waking beings who had chosen eternal sleep. But most importantly, the galaxy began to sing again. Not everyone was awake, but those who were had rediscovered the courage to face uncertain futures. Children on 100 worlds learned new songs about choosing to wake up each morning. Artists created works that celebrated both the beauty of dreams and the adventure of reality. The first dreamer established a new role for itself as a guardian of the boundary between sleeping and waking. It helped those who wanted to dream find perfect rest, and it helped those who wanted to wake find the courage to face another day. Sometimes it took physical form to experience individual consciousness, and sometimes it returned to collective existence to better understand the needs of dreamers. And in a small house on New Bizin, a little girl continued to have the most interesting dreams in the galaxy, visiting ancient entities and teaching them that the most beautiful thing about consciousness was not perfection, but the endless possibility of becoming something new. Are you tired of all this? Her father asked one evening as she prepared for another dream journey. Tired? No, Papa. This is the most awake I have ever been. As Su Jin closed her eyes and let her consciousness drift toward the stars, she smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new ancient beings to befriend, new songs to sing across the cosmos. And that uncertainty, that endless potential for surprise and growth, was exactly what made waking up worthwhile. The galaxy had learned an important lesson from a small human child. The most powerful force in the universe was not the promise of perfect dreams, but the courage to choose an imperfect reality where anything could happen. And in the space between sleeping and waking, ancient entities began to remember what they had forgotten. That consciousness was not a burden to be escaped, but a gift to be celebrated, one choice at a time. The stars themselves seemed to sing a little brighter, as if the universe had remembered how to dream of waking up.